Okay, hi everyone. Today is January the 7th, and I'm going to do a shorter 20-minute video of what I did yesterday of the same topic that was an hour and 20 minutes long. Let me just fix my microphone, I think. Because I felt there was just too much rambling, and I could get to the point I wanted to make in 20 minutes rather than take a lot of time. It's minus 18 today. I can't remember what that is in Fahrenheit, maybe -5 or something. Very, very cold. And I only have I don't use Wi-Fi in my house, of course. And I have an internet cord that is not extremely long. So I'm limited to where I can actually sit in my house, and the wood stove is over there. And it takes a long time for the heat to move around. This is a weird apartment. Hence, I'm sitting like this. But thankfully, I'm going to have a lot of screen things to show you, so you won't have to look at me and my ugly head for the course of the day of this talk. So I'm going into the Paris World Fairs, of which there were 5 between 1855 and 1900. And I said I wasn't going to get too much into historical stuff with you anymore, but this came up because I had finished the Paris video, the Southern France series, and had been looking into Paris quite a bit. And of course, these World Fairs take place at the exact time that Sauniere and Boudette and everyone else are doing their very strange Southern France experiences. So I don't think they are separate in any way. It's also the time of the Belle Epoch that we're going to talk about quickly, and the possibility that we're dealing with the city that was Jerusalem, the original Jerusalem of the New Testament. And so these fairs, I'm presenting them to you so that you can potentially look into them in more detail yourself. The problem is I can't really go into detail with you because as we begin, I'll start the screen sharing now so you don't have to look at my face anymore. The problem is I'm not a French speaker. So this is, again, Jean-Paul Sank's World's Fair page that I highly recommend if you want to study anything about the fair. So if we go, say, the 1889 fair in Paris, here's all the information that's available from websites, videos, places you can find photographs, and there's lots of them if you want to go through photographs, like just lots. I haven't even checked this out. Lot 6,001 at the Library of Congress. Photographs here of, there's not many, there's mostly the building of, but I want to show you some of these. Like, for example, these are the guides and maps, just the guidebooks for the 1889 fair in Paris. So Guide Illustrated Exposition Universelle. So you have a complete book, the guide to the fair. You can go in the catalog. Here's another guide, another album guide. I just want to show a couple of these to you because I want you to see that there is so much detail if you want to go into these fairs, and I think they deserve it. As I've done a brief explanation or a brief overview for myself, these fairs deserve a book themselves, just as I did on all the American fairs. These Paris fairs really, really deserve a book, especially when you put it now in the light of the possibility of Jerusalem / whatever's going on with Sauniere in southern France. But the problem is you need to dig through it in French, and I don't speak. My French is just not good enough to go through these books and get the detail out of what's going to be in there, because that's where I learned what I did about the American fairs had nothing to do with, like, some Wikipedia page, like, here or something. You're not going to get much other than just a brief overview. You have to go into all of this material. You have to go into these books, into these catalogs, into the things that have been written on them. Here's a 635-page book on the exposition probably from 1889. And again, once you start digging into these photographs to get to these drawings, these images, this text, the detail, this is where you'll find this is where you'll find what was really going on at these expositions. Even if they're written a bit symbolically, if you unravel the symbolism, you're going to figure it out. So, I mean, somebody needs to do it. And maybe that's why I'm just making this small video, because somebody needs to go through this and really take these fairs to the next level. So we've got 5 fairs to look at. And again, I want you to think we've had 5 fairs, one almost every decade. In fact, one every decade in Paris. Constantly with the story being built, torn down, built, torn down, built, torn down. After a couple of these, you're going to start wanting to keep the stuff around, wouldn't you think? And they seem to do that. But why would you just tear the whole thing? I mean, it's one thing if you're going to build Chicago or St. Louis and you're never going to have a World's Fair there again. Well, at least you could say, yeah, well, okay, we had our fair, we're not doing it again. Paris is proving they're having one every 10 years. What are you doing? So again, that's why Paris is the central point of these fairs, even though London is having them as well. Paris is the real central point of these fairs. Paris is the place where the official, government agency of World Fairs is, the Bureau International Exposition or something. It's centered in Paris. So Paris is the center of all this stuff. And so it has to be looked at. This is the first one they have in 1855. And I'm just going to use the Wikipedia page with a couple of notes I've got from other places as a very brief overview for you. I want to also get my Paris Expos page up. So this is the first one that had a sort of Crystal Palace-like sort of experience. This was known as the Palace of Industry. And again, no information on how this was built, where it was built. Let's see, Palace of Industry. So here we have it, circa 1860. So it was still around. They didn't destroy it right afterwards. It was demolished in 1897. So it was erected right on the Champs-Élysées. This is where this first fair happened. Was built in 1839, the first one, and was replaced for subsequent expositions in 1844 and 1890. The 1895 building, so they had a first set of Palace of Industry in 1839, which they replaced. That one's not good enough. Built another one. Now in 1855, they built another one. So I mean, yeah, and it is very Crystal Palace-like. So what I'm saying is the first sets of fairs all take place in buildings that are Crystal Palaces. And I don't think they were built. I mean, the odds of you building the exact, almost same looking structure is dubious, to say the least. And these buildings, when you look at the various Crystal Palaces, and again, this building here, Campbell, I think it was Campbell and Martin who were talking about it, how they looked very much like European train stations. And these could have been original transportation hubs of a very large, highly transportatable society that were later turned into fair buildings. Here's the inside of the same building, used in another exposition. Look at the size of it. These are all grandstands, I guess. It could be grandstands. But you could see this as a train station, couldn't you? You could totally see this as the trains or the docking points are here, and this is your central area where passengers are coming and going, open to the sky, so you get sunlight. So this is the first one. We have the 1855 exposition. Okay, so we get through that. And we go to 1867. And 1867 is where's 1867? I've got so many up here. 1860, no, this one, 1867. What I want to share, and again, I'm just giving you a brief overview. Please go through it yourself. I don't want to take up massive amounts of time on this. I just want you to be thinking about it. So here's the second fair, supposedly now to rival the fair of 1862 in Paris. And I want to show you the view of this fair. This is the area where the Eiffel Tower now stands, right? Champ de Mars. And this is the first fair that's supposed to be built there. The Eiffel Tower would be here now. The 67 fair is very important for a number of different reasons. It changes the fairgrounds. First of all, the look of the fair, and now this building we're going to look at first. And I'm going to come back to this image because we want to talk about these towers. But this particular building, which is again the main area of this exposition, and when we have an actual photograph of it, tell me that does not look like the Roman Colosseum. And now I've seen a number of different Roman Colosseum, not just the main one in Rome. There's, every Roman city had its own miniature Colosseum, right? They had its own, whatever these buildings were for. We know history likes to tell us it's gladiators, but we really have no idea what these buildings are for, other than they can hold a lot of people. That's all we know for sure. And it's the combination. If I zoom in a little bit, it's the combination of the flagpoles that are existing here, which is what they are. There's other images you'll see where these are flagpoles. That's very Colosseum-like, as are the round arches. The round arches here, which, for example, the one in Rome, all had statues lining the inside of it. This to me is the Roman Colosseum. I can't see how anyone would think otherwise, that they put the exposition, either they built, right? Either this was built, so we can't deny that maybe some strange technology was being used to actually build this stuff, but they built a replica of the Roman Colosseum. So we're seeing that we have dates of this fair. I forgot to check the dates of the other fair. The dates are important. April 1st to October 31st. You can't choose more more occult dates right away than right off the bat. Now, we're going to talk about two things about this fair. The first is these towers. This is known as I'll try to zoom in for you. This is known as the English Tower. And this one is known as the French Tower. Now, why are these towers important? Two reasons. One was, we'll see, is it's going to be a model for the Eiffel Tower. I think I'll see a better image of it coming up, but I want to read something very important about these towers. The French, so the English had a lighthouse, but that's what they're calling this. They're calling this a lighthouse. Okay, calling it a lighthouse. So maybe we have a better image here, just on the Wikipedia page, to show this to you. Let's see, influence gallery. I know I can find it if I go. If I just open a new window for you. English Tower. 1867. Let's see, will they come up? English Tower, 1867. There it is. There's the English Tower, which is supposed to be a lighthouse. Okay, this is what they built, and you can see how this would be an early model of the Eiffel Tower, or I mean, it's not the Eiffel Tower because we have actual photographs of the thing, so we know it's not the Eiffel Tower, but you can see that this is a model for it. Now, but what's important about it is the French also had one, right? The French also had their tower. And if I put French Tower in here, maybe we'll see the French version of this, the French Tower from the World's Fair. No, that's a nice image right here that's going to lead into exactly what we're just going to say. That here's the Eiffel Tower looking very electrified. But there was the tower we just saw for here, the English Tower, but we don't have the French Tower. And the French Tower was, sorry for slowing you down here, but I kind of want to make sure you can see this stuff. This is the French Tower here, okay, this lighthouse right here. The French, too, had erected a lighthouse in the park. Almost 50 meters in height, the towering structure illuminated the Parisian sky every night for the duration of the exposition. Probably it was the memory of this sky-reaching illumination that inspired the commissioners of the 1889 World Fair to propose a 300-meter tower as the spike for the exposition of that year. It illuminated the Parisian sky every night. 50 meters in height, illuminating the night sky in 1867. What kind of electricity power in 1867 are you going to have to power a lighthouse that will illuminate the night sky? Let's be very clear on this. What will do that? I think the only way you're going to get that done, obviously, they're not running huge electrical power plants in our, no one's asking the question, well, where's all this electricity coming from? I mean, we zoom into the image. Let's really zoom into the image around this tower. Let me just find where it is. Here's the tower in the image, in the middle of a park. Where the heck are the electricity coming from? Nowhere. It must be being generated by the towers itself. But these two towers, right, that one and the electrical and the English tower. Where's the English tower? The English tower is here. These two lighthouses must be generating their own power. And if we look at the Eiffel Tower, which we will when we get to 1889, there's no doubt that that was probably originally an energy generating device, and perhaps is still working as an energy generating device. Two other things about the 1867 exposition that I want to quickly pass on to you before we move on. That is that there was a big ancient Egyptian exhibit at this particular exposition, which is, I'm showing you here. You can see that this Egyptian temple is very well made, and in fact, almost like a replica of the Temple of Hathor in Dendera. That's the first thing I see when I look at this. This is almost like an exact replica. So is it a replica? Because we know that there's a lot of speculation as to what things like the Temple of Notre Dame is built on. They say it's built on a temple of Isis, some say, right? Well, we're looking at, here's an actual photograph of the 67 pavilion. That's not even a drawing. That's an actual photograph. That's what it was. Probably that's a replica, but they've done a really good job in manufacturing it. They've also had these giant exhibits of ancient Egyptian statues, and I'm wondering if everything we see in the Louvre now from the Egyptian exhibit was here at the 67, came from the 67 World Expo. I don't want to go into too much more. I'm not going to go into massive details on these expos because I want you to do that for yourself. This expo also had a very strange Gothic cathedral that they put in. They've claimed they put in the middle of the park, which they commented that the irony of a Catholic church standing on the Champ de Mars at an industrial exposition was somehow improper. Anyway, you can look at all this yourself. So that's the 67 fair. They have another one, 1878. Now in 1878, we go to a whole new set of construction and a whole new set of fair. Here's now, so it's in the same location. They put it in the same place that the one you just saw in 1867 had. This building remained. If you saw in the back of the Colosseum, like building, this structure was here. This supposedly now is all new. So all of the towers, all of the things, all that garden area is gone, the Colosseum is gone, and now they built this giant, because the last thing wasn't good enough for a fair. You need this now instead. But they also built, I think this is still there, or at least I know this part of it is still there in Paris. So all this now is rebuilt in 10 years' time. So remember, it's just 10 years later, and we've had to build all of this for the next fair. Which, we don't want to go into too much detail other than this. This is one of the other weird things about the 1878 fairs. They're supposedly showcasing the Statue of Liberty's head. It makes you wonder why in 1878 are they needing to have this incredible focus on connection between France and the United States? What is the reason for this important thing? The other important piece is right here, this particular line, our magic bullet in World's Fairs. Many of the buildings and statues were made of staff, a low-cost temporary building material invented in Paris in 1876, which consisted of jute fiber, plaster of Paris, and cement. Right? The famed staff, the thing that tries to explain the whole possibility of how these expositions magically happens here at this particular fair in Paris. But, well, this building wasn't plaster of Paris. It's still there, it still exists, still fully in place. They built this. Why didn't they build this with plaster of Paris? This building lasted for 3 expositions. They kept this going through to 1900. Well, this wasn't built with plaster of Paris. That building in the background is not built with plaster of Paris. So where's the plaster of Paris buildings that they're building all this stuff from? They all look like real structures to me. Okay, let's go through very quickly the Belle Epoque. And the Belle Epoque is going on in this particular area throughout all of Europe. And it's known as the beautiful era. It's the time of mass colonialism. It really is a time, it's not just in France this is happening, even though it's centered in France. It's this idea that Europe has reached its pinnacle. It controls the whole world now. There's nowhere in the world that isn't pretty much controlled by somebody from Europe. And so that's the presentation of this sort of era of wine and drinking and the Moulin Rouge. But it's also a time especially in Paris, of tremendous art. And all of these World's Fairs are taking place in the middle of this Belle Epoque. They even in 1910, they claimed by the year 2000, we would be having these video phones. So this was showcased in 1910 in Paris, where the phone, which is a fairly new invention, you'd be seeing the person you were talking to on the phone. I mean, this is Skype, right? Showing in 1910. Now we know that in Germany, in the 1930s, Germany had Skype. I mean, it actually existed. You made phone calls and saw the person you were talking to in Germany in the 1930s. Well, where did that technology disappear to for 70 years? They had it. Let me find a picture of it. Let's just see. Skype, Germany, 1930s. Do we have an image of it? Yeah, video phones. Here we go. Nazi Germany had video phones. What? Well, where did those things go? Right? There. Video phones. As it says, the predecessor of Zoom and Skype, Germany had the first public video phones. Video phones in the 1930s. We don't have television yet. We don't, suppose that we don't have all this stuff, but they've got video phone. How is the video not only being captured, how is it being sent around the country? Think about that for a second. In 1930, what is not being told? Is this another image of it? Early images of video conferencing. I don't know what year this is from, but look at this. Were you ever told about this information? Video conferencing? Come on. Something is so bizarrely, I don't want to call it wrong, but, wow. And you can see this is, anyway. Okay, let's move on. 1889, which is one fair I'd like to really dig into, and it's because of this, the Eiffel Tower. So now we have the same building we had just seen. We better get a map of the 1889 fair. So again, at least this time, they decided to keep some of the structure and just add the Eiffel Tower. So 1889, it seems, is just it wasn't that much supposedly built for. But we see images first of the Gallery of the Machines. But I want you to see what's going to start to come in these expositions. And we're going to look at the Eiffel Tower. Now, the Eiffel Tower, here's the Eiffel Tower here. It's the construction of it. So we have these construction photos, and it's quite possible it's been constructed. I'm not really concerned, was it constructed or was it not constructed, although we have weird photographs of the construction, these blanked out, you see these blanked out called vanilla skies, right? Where these, oops, don't want to keep going. Where the background is purposely hidden out. Like this is a whitewashed, these are whitewashed backgrounds. That's not the sky, right? The sky doesn't look like that. This has been purposely, the backgrounds have been purposely photoshopped at the time out so they can be hidden. And what's important is I want you to look at this building level here, because this is going to start telling us of our structure. We start to see things beginning to form on that second level. And here it is. Here it is. These do not appear on the Eiffel Tower now. This was a key feature of the original part of, and we'll see them in this photo, in this image here. There they are. We'll probably see another better one here. There we go. These are now gone. They don't exist. They've taken them down. My guess is this is, to me, this was an energetic structure, just like an obelisk. It's drawing energy into this area, and these are part of the design. If you look at a lot of Gothic cathedrals, especially, they have similar looking structures on the outside of the building. Look at the Duomo in Paris, right? Or in Florence, the Duomo, Florence. When we look at the exterior, you see so many. It's not a good image of it, is it? Because you have to see kind of the side of it, but it has similar layouts to it. These photos are just not showing it well, unfortunately. But if you've been to the Duomo, you know what I mean. That there's a similarity to this, and I don't doubt what we're seeing is the old energy towers needed to be upgraded, and so we're seeing a new energy upgrade. The next thing we're looking at with this fair is that, again, it's happening at the same location. The Champ de Mars, the same place that these fairs have been happening since 1855, and I'm assuming this is an energetic point, and that the tower is probably placed over an absolute energy center of Paris. Now, again, if Paris is Jerusalem, if a number of I've just got to put a log on the phone. So I don't doubt that this is an energy spot, a really powerful energy spot in Paris. When I was in Paris, I didn't go here. because I wasn't studying the world fairs at that time. So I didn't go anywhere near the Eiffel Tower, which includes a ton of buildings, as you'll see, that are still there. Not just the Toreador, but there were a lot of buildings that still exist from the fairs at this particular time in Paris. But I was focused on the Rennes Le Chateau story. So when I was in Paris, I was focusing on the paintings and Chartres and Saint Sulpice and a lot of other things. I wasn't focused on this area. But I wouldn't doubt that this is a high energy spot, and the Eiffel Tower is marking, and maybe is even marking one of these New Testament actual biblical sites. What site would it be marking? I don't know. But that wouldn't surprise me, that if the This is Jerusalem story is correct, then if you track down what these fairs are, and again, what are the fairs hiding? That's the first question. Not what are they displaying, because I'm going to talk about a little bit more of what they're displaying now, but what are they hiding? Why do they need to have them at these particular sites, and why do they need to tear down what they tear down? What are they getting rid of? What are they hiding? What is the fair attempting not to show? So 1889, what are the dates we're looking at for this one? So these dates are May 5th. Okay, so not May the 1st, which I would have expected, but again, the October 31st closing. It attracted 32 million visitors. 32 million visitors. Okay, let's say half of those are Parisians. So 16 million of the visitors are Parisians. Some of the visitors are going more than one time. So that leaves you 16 million non-Parisians coming. Let's say average everybody goes twice. 8 million people have showed up in Paris in this particular time frame of 4 or 5 months in 1889. Where are they staying? Where are they staying? Are they all just coming in for the day and going and leaving for the day? How many restaurants do you need to cover all these people? How much is even a city as big as Paris in 1889? How does it handle an influx of that number of people? This exposition is supposed to celebrate here the 100th anniversary of the storming of the Bastille. What do we want to explain to you here? Gallery of Machines. No, we don't need to go there. We do have some buildings, some odd buildings that survive. Now, first of all, we have, this is a spectacular building here, actually. This, the central dome, this is just beautiful. And when you look at the dome, there were fountains and waterways all over the parks. If you know my stuff on the fairs, and if you have my book on the fairs, you will recognize the connection with it. This is St. Louis. St. Louis looked at the Cascades, right? It looked exactly like this, almost. So was St. Louis mirroring the 1889 fair? Or are we looking at two old ancient sites that were built sort of simultaneously on two different continents, with both perhaps to some saint we know as Louis, dedicated to something, St. Louis, whoever that could be, whatever biblical figure that might represent, and that we're seeing that we saw the same thing built in two different places. But there was also a building that was later shipped to Fort de France in Martinique that became known as the Scholler Library. And you can look at it. It's a very small building. It's very, very nice. But now contains 10,000 books that Victor Scholler donated to the island. Now it has 250,000 books and a museum. Yeah, I can look it up so you can see it. Might as well. The Scholler Library. So anyway, so they dismantled this and shipped it all the way to Martinique. This building here, which is nice, but that's a journey. So where's the staff in this building? Where's the plaster? Where's the wood? Again, you have to ask, why do you only build certain things of plaster, and why do you build other things that are going to survive? How about these other, so we get to the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, this is one of my favorites. So look at this. The Eiffel Tower illuminations. Where is that light coming from that's supposedly illuminating the whole fairgrounds? You know, what is underneath the Eiffel Tower? Why do they have it trying to make it look like there's a giant fire burning under it? Where's this light being generated? How is the electricity getting to put this kind of searchlight power? It has to be being generated by the tower itself, right? But again, I don't want to take too long on this one. But Palace of Fine Arts, yeah. There's another image of the fountains. Again, this is, that's St. Louis. That's the Cascades in front of it. Same building, the same type of building, right? We've even got the same boat-like figure that we see at the Columbian Exposition in their parkland. It's so similar. We have the zoo being formed here. We have the human zoo focus. And again, this is especially to have all of the places where France had now had its colonies, to show the peoples that were colonized, the people that had been brought civilization to. But it is an example of what the people who were there thought, who were the displayed primitives, like this person, Samba Lawe Thiam, a jeweler from Senegal, who was part of the 1889 expedition, said the following: "We are very humiliated to be exhibited this way. in huts like savages. These straw and mud huts do not give an idea of Senegal. In Senegal, we have large buildings, railroad stations, railroads. We light them with electricity. The Bureau of Hygiene does not tolerate the construction of this type of hovel. Those existing ones that fall into disrepair are not replaced. So you can already see that what we're looking at is, again, this beginning of stupefying, making the primitives look, making the other people of the world look primitive and stupid compared to the fair-going European that is, so I mean, you're seeing brainwashing, right? We have the Lapland village here. We have the Cairo street, of course. We have the Japanese village. But it's all about displaying the primitives. Displaying the primitives. Now, we've got, again, tell me these are made of staff. Here's the Argentina building, which is supposedly another building dismantled and moved to Argentina, which was in Buenos Aires until 1952, I think. So this one's not made of staff. And again, they took it apart and moved it to Argentina. Look at the workmanship. Look at the workmanship in this and the quality. And now we know it's not staff because it's a real building. So how long does this building actually take to build? Proper building. How long does that take to build? And now we start adding the Pavilion of Chile. Well, that's there. How about what else we got here for this fair? We've got the Pavilion of Siam. Yeah, we've got a ton of these beautiful buildings. It had a train that ran all the way around the entire exposition. So you had a train that was moving you around the entire expo. This history of habitation, you can look into that. The Buffalo Bill show, I think. Again, I just want to mention it, but this was ran for the whole exposition. And as I have written down here somewhere, which is important, is where is it? Is, because I want to get the wording correct. The show appeared for 7 months at the Exposition Universelle. A grandstand, campground, and even an electric plant were built to support the show for its extended stay. An electric plant in 1889 is built for some Wild West show? In my opinion, this was probably a really important part of the whole, again, producing the narrative of the American West that we've come to see and believe that probably is nowhere near true. Notable visitors. This is weird. Thomas Edison and his wife and daughter visited the exposition on August 14, his third day in France, to visit the exhibit where his improved phonograph was being demonstrated. So he went to France to the World Exposition, but only went there one day. He also ascended the viewing platform of the Eiffel Tower, where he met with a group of Sioux Indians who were at the exposition to perform in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. Okay. He returned to the Eiffel Tower later in his visit, where he was hosted for lunch in Eiffel's private apartment in the tower, along with composer Charles Gounod. Why do we need to be told he met with a group of Sioux Indians who were at the Wild West show? What difference does it make? What is the point of that? Why do they want to tell us that? Here again, the key of the Negro village, where 400 people were displayed as a popular attraction, right? Going to see the Negro villages, going to see the primitives, that's a popular attraction. It's an attraction, right? Okay, 1889. Let's finish this off with the exposition of 1900. Now, we really get the Greek Roman symbolism in the initial painting. This one starts April 14, closes November the 12th, one day after the November 11th date. And again, please go into detail on this. I just have to give you as best I can of an overview. We can see that it's rather similar to what we saw in 1889. They've added a Ferris wheel. but they've now supposedly added and built all of this. Now, all the photos that you saw before, right, were all photos sort of taken from here, taken in this direction. So we never had photographs being taken that way. We don't know if those are all built structures or not. All these here are supposed to be built structures. These are all the country things. I'm going to show you them in a moment. But we'll just quickly go through some of the images of the Pont Alexander. Yeah, we have the Palace of Optics and the Aquarium. Yeah, the Grand Palais and the Petit Palais. These two buildings are still there in Paris. I didn't know they existed when I was in Paris. Again, I wasn't studying the fairs, but these buildings were part of the World's Fair. Notice this all here would have been country buildings, and now they're all gone. And we'll see these beautiful, what would have been beautiful images along the river had they still been there. Rue des Nations. Look at this. Wouldn't that be spectacular if all of these buildings were still there? And look at some of these. The Pavilion of Italy. How about the Pavilion of Turkey? How about the Pavilion of the United States? Bosnia-Herzegovina. There you go. How about that one? Let's look at the Pavilion of Spain. Now, Spain had one in 1889, but that one wasn't good enough. They had another one. Here's the one for Sweden. All of this supposedly built, again, for this fair. Here's Germany. Oh, the one for Belgium is spectacular, actually. Where's the one for Belgium? If I can just go back for you. The one for Belgium. Beautiful. Not staff. I can pretty much guarantee you these are not staff buildings. These are real buildings. Colonial pavilion. So, of course, they have to have a pavilion for all the places where they have colonials. The Negro village was back, of course, with all the primitives on display. They now had a Ferris wheel, just like in Chicago. They had not just this time an electric train running around. Oh, no. They had a moving sidewalk. They had a moving sidewalk near the, but you can see this if you go into, there's video images of 1900 in Paris on YouTube on the fair. Like if you just go in Paris 1900, you'll get a bunch of video footage of which is all taken during the World's Fair, some of which you'll see the moving walkway. Walk in the Park, 1900. Paris 1900. Paris 1900, the City of Light. This is all done during the World's Fair. The moving walkway, though, is definitely a thing. Just look around for it. I don't want to take up all your time, but a moving walkway in 1900, which disappears soon after, right? They also had, sorry, not this one. They also had an electric train. So now, not just the train running on the ground. No, now they've got the train running on these overhead tracks. Now, again, remember, all this is done after they just had the fair 10 years before that, torn most of it down, and then just rebuilt the whole thing and done it again. It's mind-boggling. The waste construction. How about this? The Globe Celeste. This thing right here, which is supposed to be sort of planetarium next to the Eiffel Tower. That was built. The Sphere was the scene of a fatal accident when one access ramp, hastily made of a newly introduced material, reinforced concrete, collapsed on the street below, killing 9 persons. Following the accident, the French government established first regulations for the use of reinforced concrete. It was 45 meters in diameter, blue and gold exterior, painted with the constellations and signs of the zodiac. Motion pictures was very big in presenting the new images. We have the world recreations, and this is also, again, we're seeing I'm talking about the creation of history, right? In this case, we've got the Andalusia Time of the Moors, a 5,000 square meter Spanish themed park with folklore live performances featuring full-scale Moorish architecture reproductions, including, of course, there would have been battle scenes. We had a Swiss village. Remember the Swiss village? It had 35 chalets in the Swiss village. You've got panoramas, which include, which include India, China, Cambodia, Japan, Renaissance Europe, the streets of old Paris. Here's the village, the Swiss village. Panorama Tour du Monde. How about the streets of old Paris? So again, they're building the history. You would have had, no, I wanted to point this out, the importance of theaters and music halls, because of course there would have been tons of music going on. One of the performers that would have had to have been there at these things would have been Emma Calvé, the famous opera singer of the time, who was Sauniere's very close friend slash lover slash whatever, tantric mistress, whatever. So she would have been there. So why wouldn't Sauniere and Boudet have gone to Paris to be a part of all these things? Oh yeah, and they also have the Summer Olympics. Not to be outdone, this fair also has the Olympics running, because it's not enough just to have a fair, right? You should have the Olympics too. Really interesting. Look at some of the events in the 1900 Olympics: automobile and motorcycle racing, ballooning, cricket, croquet, swimming obstacle race, not just swimming, but an obstacle race, underwater swimming. These were all events, and it was the first time women could be at the Olympics. This is tennis, but I've also seen pictures of them golfing. We're Art Nouveau. You can look into Art Nouveau if you want. That's coming along at this time as well, moving through Beaux Arts. Okay. What's the point of it all? Stop the share. Why did I take you through this tour of Paris, Paris Expositions? Briefly again, because I want you to begin, if you're going to study these fairs, and I think people should really dig into them. If you know French and you're interested in this, dig into the books I showed you on that John Paul Sanks page. Dig into it. Find out what's going on. Find out what these fairs really had, what they were really showing. Because it's, again, the whole Sauniere, Rennes Le Chateau story is taking place right here. 1885 is when he comes to Rennes Le Chateau. 1886 is when he gets this weird sum of money from Narbonne, starts changing the church. By 1889, the church is refurbished. 1891, he supposedly finds a tomb that he writes in his diary. By 1900, he's already starting the building of the Tour Magdala and the Villa Bethania and everything else that's going on. Right during the time of the fairs. And I don't think that's a coincidence that they're happening simultaneously. When we talk about the stories of, is Paris Jerusalem? Is France the place of where the New Testament takes place? Well, then again, you start asking, what are they hiding? What are these fairs hiding, or what are they marking? Because the fairs take place where the Eiffel Tower is now. They take place a lot in this location. What is that location really trying to present itself at, or what it's trying to hide, or what is it trying to symbolically, ceremoniously show you? These are all things to think about if you're going to go through this material and start wondering what's going on, because you don't have 5 world fairs in the same city every 10 years without a reason and a plan for doing it. It's not just accidental. There's a reason for that. There's something that they're marking, something they're doing, something that they're showing you. So I'll leave it there for you. I'll leave a link to an interview I did recently with Owen Benjamin. If you haven't seen it, that's down there. I've got a couple of talks coming up. We're back with Campbell soon. Emily and Michael are making some changes. We're discussing now what we want to talk about going through in 2022. Those are coming up. I've got a couple of other talks I'm going to do with some interesting people similar to Amara. I think you're going to find it very interesting when they come up in the next few weeks. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the comments. Thank you for a lot of very nice PayPal donations that came in around Christmas time. They were very, very appreciated, and using them to stay warm here in my minus 18, 20 degree high snow lifestyle. And my next video, let's try to focus on where we are now in January and where we're headed and what we can do, because I think my next couple of next videos need to really be more examining where all this craziness is headed, which is into this virtual reality world, into this, to leave this world, this reality behind, and you're going to be they want everyone locked into this virtual reality, everybody living in virtual reality. where this world literally has no existence other than the little pod that you're going to, the little neo matrix pod you're going to be, your body's going to be housed in, and your mind and your experience will be somewhere else. And we need to use that not to be concerned about where we're going, but to be looking at where we are, to say, are we in the virtual reality now? And that our focus shouldn't be how to stay out of the next one. It's how to go backwards and get out of this one. So that's going to be my reason for showing it to you, is not fear of where we're going, but to try to use the pointers of where we're going to figure out where we are, so we can try to maybe get out of two realities at the same time. Okay, that's the video for today. I hope this will give you some things to think about, some more strangeness of these fairs. Again, there's so much detail that you could go into. It really deserves a book. It needs a massive amount of work, these fairs, and maybe someone else will, with a great French background, will do it, and this was your inspiration to start. See you soon.